This next episode is the finale episode in season 3. My next guest I had the privilege to sit down with is my guest from last week, Alexander. What better way to close out the season than to talk about empowerment? So if you have not had the opportunity to hear Alexander's gender journey, be sure to go back and listen to episode 95. But within this episode, my guest and I talk all things empowerment, how to navigate this harsh political climate, how to take care of your mental health. And the key takeaway is Alexander gives us tools from his own personal experience that helps him to recenter himself so we can take back to use within our own healing journeys. His guidance and encouragement throughout this episode is meant to empower you. I know you will enjoy this episode, so let's get into it.
Dem Bois, Dem Bois, amplifying, transmitting color voices, yeah, we here making noise, making noise, Visibility equals possibility, you know we them boys, amplifying.
Let's talk a little bit about empowerment, right? And so, in with your empowerment, you make it a point to say that you're not just talking about, out the side of your ass. Like you talking from experience, right? And we talking about multiple experiences, right? We talking mental health experiences and reclaiming your power and incarceration, all of these different things. And so do you want to speak to folks about empowerment and what it is that your work that you do and what it is that you can bring to us as a community? And let's just talk all things empowerment.
Empowerment. Yeah. In every aspect, it is you believing in yourself, and in every aspect is continuing with your vision even when nobody else can see it, and that's why I feel like the whole trans conversation is like so much more universal than a lot of people really understand, because right, I mean, anyone can attest to needing to have faith, one way or another, and so that journey, faith for sure.
Are you saying that empowerment is tied to faith, or are you talking about?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So empowerment includes having faith in knowing that you're worthy, so like when I would travel, for example, out of the country, right? I'm not gonna say I wasn't scared a little bit. I'm like, I was like, ooh, what they gonna do in the airport? They're gonna pat me down. They gonna, if they need to take something out, are they gonna be chill? So, all those things. However, you do it scared, and then you have faith, and then you realize long enough, you get reflected back the energy you feel about yourself. And this is my thing too, right? I have to say that light skin being a privilege, and also perceivably mask passing or assumed privilege, right? However, what I didn't notice over time is I didn't look any different, but my confidence and my spiritual relationship with myself and the universe, that fortified me. So like, I'll be out here telling grown men to check themselves, like I don't have no fear because I know that I'm backed by a force, you know what I mean, of love, and so I really, and this is what I will say. It took a lot of spiritual work, sitting in ceremony. I do somatic therapy. I do essential oils. I work with crystals. If you see my house, I mean, it's dedicated to wellness. Every corner is something that you could smell, touch, taste that's going to help you heal and feel good. You know what I mean? Like I got like sound bowls over here. There's crystals over there. I have surrounded my life with joy and wellness. And I think that being able to do that and have the confidence to parlay from what the normal or the regular seems like, right? You need to prioritize that journey within self, that discovery within self. And so traveling and trusting myself, using my intuition to heal, use the herbs, all of this has given me this pathway to empowerment. But one thing only is going to carry you the whole way through. You don't even have to do any of that stuff, right? It is just knowing that you're worthy, knowing that you're worthy. And nobody can do that outside of you. So in my work, through Andrxgenisis, I do consulting with nonprofits, with individuals. Basically, I'm a strategist. I'm a spiritual strategist. So I help people build, whether it is systems, onboarding systems that is mindful of all people, right? And I was able to do that through 14 years of advocacy. So, I did the social justice, and I kept my creativity the whole time, and so basically it was just a natural next step to take this seriously, and and I received overwhelming support from my community. Like, I have to say, a lot of people of trans experience, whether we're here or there, man, have paved the way, even before, like, and so I'm always cognizant of that power we come from, and I know I'm going on here, but I really want to hone in on the fact that, like, we, you know, there were worse times. There were worse times and higher stakes, and so we got this, you know what I mean? And I need people to know that, right? Like, we say that we're divine, and we say that, we come from, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, but, like, really feel into that. So I would say empowerment comes through there, and I serve that energy through, whether it be creativity, whether it be through consulting, or my spiritual work.
You said something that I think is important, and I want to ask you a little bit more about it. Saying for folks to know that they are worthy. First of
Absolutely.
all, I mean, I know that I'm worthy now, only because I've done the work.
Sure.
What would you say to somebody who is listening? Because let's be clear, the negative connotations in the media, what that president is saying, like the executive orders, everything that is happening in this moment is to tell it's a message to tell people you aren't worthy and you don't fucking belong here and we don't want you here. And so that can be discouraging, especially for younger folks, especially for folks who are have sensitive mental health concerns, especially for folks who haven't done the work yet, and folks that are in a community that's in a survival mode. What would be your advice for those folks to solidify their worthiness?
I want everyone who's feeling that right now to take a deep breath and remember that you've gotten through something you thought was inescapable before. Even daring to choose to be yourself is something that many will never understand. And the irony in this is that those who are trying to make us seem villainous are really the ones hiding from themselves. So don't be afraid of fear itself, because you've chosen to be you with all it comes with. In the face of probably losing family, in the face of being persecuted, you've chosen to be you. So trust that. Trust that we are protected, and that's why I say faith and trust, and it's a relationship, just like how we said earlier, your relationship with yourself, it's also the relationship between you and everything, and that takes some patience, that takes a lot of patience, because um personally, I was told a lot about what wasn't possible for me, or that it would be hard. You see what I'm saying? So that programming running in my subconscious, attracted some unfavorable situations, and sometimes and this is not unique to trans people, this is all people, uh, sometimes you seek what's familiar, you know? And so I would say don't seek a familiar pain in the atmosphere. cling on to what feels good, you know, and what feels uplifting responsibly, you know, and have community, you know, have community, you know, absolutely. I would say this.
Yes, community. I think sometimes too, one way, this is just my thoughts on it. One way to feel worthy is to
Mm.
put the goddamn phone down. That's the
Oh my goodness. Yes, that one. That was the first one.
put that goddamn phone down. Like, me knowing what's happening at every waking moment is not good for my mental health. And even for me,
No.
as confident as I am or whatever, sometimes it makes me feel like shit. And so I refuse. I feel like it's poison. You know, the phones are, it's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because we can have access to anything that we want to have access to. We can see things that we wouldn't have never seen before, whatever, right? But sometimes it's fucking poison. And if you keep looking at it, it's going to poison your mind, your thoughts, and how you feel about yourself. And that is the point. This is why all of this negative shit is going around, because that's the point. They want us to feel hopeless. They want us to feel unworthy. They want us to feel unloved and all of this unsupported and all of these things, right? And so that will be my first thing. And I tap out all the time. All the time. Sometimes I just throw my phone on the bed or whatever. I don't even look at it, because if I see something that ruffles my feathers or like triggers something within me, I'm done. I'm turning it off. So sometimes that's an answer too, right? You got to find something else to do. Find something safe to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. You cannot consume, you know, garbage and you know, and expect a garden, you know. Yeah, absolutely. I think so. With the work, the nature of the work that I do, I have to be abreast. You know, I am, you know, in Washington D.C., so like I am consuming a lot more of that than than I would, I mean, recommend anybody. But I would say, yeah, like take your time and know that if you're going to, like, for those of us who, you know, our work is surrounding this, if you're going to have all the practices, that's why, you know what I mean? If you're going to tune in, have your support and absolutely take time away, you know, take time in nature, you know, oh my goodness, read a book, something, anything. But but what you say, be off of it, you know.
Yeah, for those of us who can. Yeah, go ahead.
For those of us who can, and what I would say also is balance it out with some comedy, you know, comedy or, you know, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Or do something constructive like build a Lego set.
Hey, there we go. Because we build a Lego set. So
right.
you could join us.
Yeah, do something. I know sometimes for me, it takes a lot of breath work, and sometimes I listen to music. Music has always been medicine for my soul since I was a kid. So I'm knowing like 5 or 6. I always had my little cassette player for y'all younger folks who don't know what that is. But I used to have my little tape deck, my earphones, and I was zone out. And I lived in a house with a lot of physical abuse, verbal abuse. And so music was always my refuge. That mean I couldn't hear the hollering, I couldn't hear the yelling, I couldn't hear anything said to me. I just would go in my room, close my door, put my earphones on, just zone out and listen to my music. And so sometimes I do that even now. If I'm even scrolling online, I'm listening to my music because it helps me to make a situation light. It helps me lighten the mood or whatever. And so sometimes that's something, that's a technique or that can help with lightening stuff. Do some breath work before you even turn the Instagram on. Do some breathing, some grounding to know that. And then realizing that everything, sometimes a lot of things online ain't real. Right. And it's to provoke folks and to
exactly. It's made that way.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. So from whatever platform that you're listening to this week's episode on, please be sure to give us 5 stars. And if there's something within this episode, whether it's the guest or something that I said, or maybe the guest said that resonated with you, be sure to go and leave us a comment on this episode or leave us a comment on the show. So what happens is, if you feel like it resonated with you, I'm sure there's someone out there who hasn't even heard about Dem Bois Podcast. It may resonate with them, and actually it could save someone's life. To hear these stories, right? Because we believe that visibility equals possibility, but there isn't any possibility if we aren't visible. So if you go and leave comments, the more comments you leave, the more 5-star ratings you leave, then this podcast will be available to more folks to see. And so we want to be visible. We want to be out there. We want folks to know that we're here and that our stories are out there for them to listen to. And so if you could do me a favor, please go ahead and rate the show or leave a comment. Until next time, see you on the next episode.
Hey, this is Joel Simu, production assistant for Dem Bois Podcast. Our community keeps growing, and we'd love for you to be an even bigger part of it. Have a story that needs to be heard? A powerful moment you'd like to share? Well, we've expanded our newsletter to include more voices from our community, and yours could be next. We're looking for those meaningful snapshots of life, your personal stories and reflections that capture who we are. Think 100 to 200 words that pack a punch. Ready to share your story? Send your writing to me at joel@dembois.org. That's JOEL@dembois.org.
And so I want to ask you this. And so you said that traveling is how you reinforce your trust in God, the universe, and your ancestors. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So traveling, oh my goodness, when you exit this country, you'll find that the perspective is rather limited in terms of, who's going to embrace you outside of here. So, I went to Costa Rica, which is, very diverse, a lot of travelers. And I was backpacking, and I went to Nicaragua, stayed in this little island called Ometepe. And, I was just experimenting, and I met people from Spain too, who I told them, like I told them that I was trans. I told them, I would be out there, in the waterfalls and stuff, shirt off, and I received love. I received respect. I met like a bunch of, like teenagers from Germany, and I told them about the Black trans plight, and they were like, "Fuck that shit." They like, come to Germany. They're like, come use our health insurance. So like my experience, and I actually had recently some French reporters, come my way. They flew out just to speak to people in community because they are appalled about what's happening over here. You know what I mean? And so I feel like I hold that so much, when I travel, it's like, wow, like, you know, a lot of people are about love, and also Costa Rica is just amazing. They have a way of life that's called pura vida, which is pure life. So, I got to get a taste of that, and I have ancestry there. So it was really dope. And then subsequently just traveling all over the States and being open, and I would say, I was surrounded in a certain atmosphere that was violent too, just as you said. And so I grew up around a lot of like, gang members and things of that nature. And, I got a lot of respect, and so I don't know, like that's what I carry with me. That's what I carry with me. And so, having faith, building that trust, all of it goes into that, all of it.
And so when we talk about empowerment and self-creation and all of that,
Right.
and living in our truths, um, how can you relate empowerment? How can you relate empowerment to our lived experiences? or like even of our past, or just our lived experiences in the moment?
In the moment. Yeah, I mean, in the moment, there has never been so many resources as as there ever was, So I think that that's, being on the leading edge of reality, you know, um, life is designer, it's what we make of it. So I think that, we, as we said earlier, we got to have that love during in our lived experience and in this present moment. Choose it by moment. Choose what you're feeding. Because there's a direct result. So I'm going to lean into what's loving. What's even if that means just myself for a time. You know.
Mm. I was listening to a podcast recently, and they were talking about people detransitioning. And
Yeah.
not that that's an option for me, but I don't, and I don't know if that was, anything of option of you. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is that folks,
Right.
I mean, when there's a small percentage of folks that actually detransition, but in this moment of like uncertainty,
Mm.
and if somebody's listening, like, yo, I don't want to do this no more. I don't want to go through this no more. I want to just go back to
Mm.
being, in the binary so I can be left alone and none of this would apply to me. When we talk about empowerment, what type of
Mm.
things would you say to an individual thinking that route?
I would say prayer, be
Mm,
you, be true, lean into lean into some therapy, maybe spiritual guidance, right? Because and like I said, it has to be you first. It has to be you first though, because everyone's gonna tell you any kind of thing, You have to really go the mile, and that's what I would say is tough with this journey. Is like you're the one that's gonna give you grace or not. So whatever your choice is, just take the time to be sure of it. It's confusion is okay. You can say, I'm confused and I love myself anyway. I'm confused and I love myself anyway. You know, that doesn't mean we have to withhold love for ourselves. Maybe just embrace that a lot of life is mystery. It's curious, it's unknown, and I think that's, trans people are on the leading edge of the unknown, and so we're, you know, uh, um, try to make peace with that relationship because it could shift all the time. Like I personally came off of testosterone because I am preparing myself, to have children or at least give myself the option. Never thought I would do that. You know what I mean? Like I had a dream of me, with child, and I woke up and I laughed. I laughed at myself. I was like, "What the fuck?" I was that was strange. And then I was like, wait, but that was really it did something to me. So I I, I would just encourage people to be okay with that shifting, and knowing that no one, you looking at yourself through a microscope, everyone else is gonna do that. Try not to do that to you.
And when you do that to yourself, you're taking your power away, your own
There
power
we
away.
go. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm feeling like
That's it.
I'm feeling like you know how to sing because you done hit a note a couple of times. Are you a singer?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And
Yes.
this is like a regular
Yes.
because you feel like family, so it's just coming out like
I love that. I love that.
yeah.
That's all right. Don't hold back. I love that.
Not everybody gets that.
I
Not
love that.
everybody gets
I
that,
love
but you
that.
pulling it out.
I love that. And you know what? That's this environment that's created here on the Boys Podcast, right? It's like this
Sure.
this is safe here. This is a safe space. And I
It is.
enjoy holding space for folks to tell their stories and say what it is that you need to say. You gotta cry, you wanna laugh, you wanna curse, you wanna sing, whatever it is that the spirit leads on your heart in a moment. That was like a church
Ooh,
phrase. But but whatever, like right, the universe or whatever is just bubbling inside you, let that shit out. Right? This is a space where we can let that shit out. So I'm so grateful for that.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. And so you want
Period.
yes, dot. And so do you want to tell us a little bit about Andrxgenisis, the company that you are currently
Yes,
doing
yes.
work with?
My baby. So I came up with this concept really when I was in middle school. I wrote something called Androgenius, right? I'm not gonna there was a rhyme that came with it, and so, bet you never seen this Androgenius, I didn't know what I was really saying. And then I looked into it later on, you know, um, and as I grew, my spiritual journey grew. I learned about Isis, which is a Kemetic goddess that is about healing, healing generations, some people say 7, some people say 14 generations forwards and backwards, and so I really resonated with that energy. And my original name, right, means well, my mother had told me and I looked it up, but now you can't find it. But it means Egyptian goddess of love, right? So I was like, ooh, okay. There was a connection there. So I put Andrxgenisis. So instead of Andro, I put an X because it's all people and a new beginning for all people, Um, and so I had that in my mind, I had that in my mind, carried it for years, and then I was like, I need to make this come to life. And so for my birthday back in 2020, I decided to I decided to pay to get the logo done, and because I was like, I'm visual, didn't know what it was going to be at all. But then little by little, spirit starts showing me my advocacy, my creativity, and my gifts start coming online. I start realizing how, like, I've had these spiritual gifts this whole time, right? And so, I've been dubbed like a spiritual god, spiritual guide, in some social justice spaces, but very much that too. And so like I carried that with me and I was just like, how do I put all of this together? Like, because in some spaces I'm social justice, in some places I'm artist, some places I'm, you know, and I like, so finally I had like this moment where it was like contraction, right? We gave birth. And I was like, oh my goodness, Andrxgenisis can be, right, like this extension of my love of healing, creativity, having ceremony space, doing consulting and training modules. Like I can do all of it, the events and everything. So that is what Andrxgenisis is. So I do consulting work, with nonprofit organizations and coalitions. I do interviews, workshop building. I mean, like, bro, I could be here for a long time. But basically it was just my heart, So my heart was talking. I had to go for it. And Andrxgenisis is all of that. And I have to say, I'm very excited because there is, ancestral land that I have in La República Dominicana that I'm working with my aunt to create a storefront for our wellness, center, and then, ideally a retreat and having retreats that work with the land that are sustainable, ecologically sustainable, and so it's a big project underway. I got people volunteering, so I'm getting started, and I'm really excited to see the vision through because there's so much more, but more than what I can say right now.
Yes, I'm so happy for that. Like the work that you're doing and just everything. And that's a version of loving yourself. Following through with that voice that heard you say that many, many years ago.
There
It's
you go.
yeah, it's funny hearing you say that because the I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on the show though, but even the name Dem Boys came to me a long time ago, many years ago. And what it
That's true.
originally was supposed to be was when I identified as a masculine centered woman and as a lesbian, it was supposed to be a motorcycle club for other masculine center women of color. And so,
Come through.
yeah, we were gonna be called
I
Dem
love
Boys.
that.
Yeah, I got the motorcycle, I got the vest and everything made with the logo, Dem Boys on it. And so it was supposed to be like, we not those boys, but we them boys. So a different kind of boys, right? And so I had a bike, and I had a bike for many years. I miss riding a bike. But anyway, the folks that was in the group with me, some folks didn't get a bike, and some folks didn't get along. And then eventually we just all kind of separated. And then I think I separated myself too, because then I began to medically transition. And so I was unsure about my identity and how I fit in that space. And so I started it. So I just took the name. I was like, I don't know where it's going to come back in the future, but I'm going to keep this name. And then in 2016, when this organization came, I was like, yo, I already got a name. Dem Boys, let's go with that. And so that's how the name. So just to know, like, you get, I feel like the universe is working on purpose, has a purpose. And so, and it's all about, and it's not just from trans experience, right? Anybody can do this. If you listen to what the voices, listen to what the ancestors are telling you, listen to what the spirit is telling you, yo.
Listen.
Speak on that.
I'm receiving. It's just, I'm vocal with my affirmations. So, I'll be over here, hooting and hollering in affirmation. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Trust in that. We've said it so many times, during this session, but trust that it's all working out, even in those moments, like where it feels like it isn't, even today, I had a moment where I was angry, and I was like, I'm so grateful, this is going to teach me something, and then there was also some profanities that was screamed out, but get yourself to that to that point. There's a balance where you're like, okay, this serves. And I will say that I practice something called Sankofa, which is to intentionally look backwards to receive wisdom to serve you now, right? And so I intentionally, or some people call this maybe shamanic journeying, where I go into my past and I go and I revisit things from different perspectives through meditation, and I ask, well, what is the truth here? And then I bring in prayer, and that's what I do with a lot of my clients as well.
What would this world be if more people listened to that spirit and did what it was that was calling them?
Heaven, blissful,
yeah, for sure. Like, for sure. So I want to ask you, before we wrap up here, is there any last moment things that you want to say to folks in the spirit of empowerment?
Check yourself before you wreck yourself. No, but
I was going to do the rest, but then I was like, nah, maybe not. Nah.
No, but I love hip hop, so yeah, check yourself, check within, and do it often, and have grace when you forget, really.
Check yourself.
And try to have grace with others.
Yes. And have grace for yourself. Yes, I love that. Thank you for tuning in to season 3 of Dem Bois Podcast. This last episode was meant to leave you feeling empowered, and I hope it did just that. And so Dem Bois is not just a podcast. We are a nonprofit organization that prioritizes the care and visibility of trans men of color. When I talk about care, Dem Bois provides financial assistance to trans men of color for access to gender affirmation surgeries. Our work helps recipients live more physically and mentally authentic lives by supporting their right to transition on their own terms and with dignity. Dem Bois exists to help alleviate the overwhelming feelings of dysphoria experienced by trans men of color who often face disproportionate barriers to quality health care and the financial means to obtain gender affirming surgeries. So when I talk about visibility, that is Dem Bois Podcast. This podcast amplifies the voices of trans men of color and their gender journeys because we believe visibility equals possibility. So Dem Bois Podcast has released 96 episodes. Let that sink in for a minute. 96 episodes. Statistically, most podcasts do not make it past the 5th episode, and we have released 96 of them. That is 96 trans men of color stories that are out there for the community to listen to and to share. And we pay our guests honorariums for being guests on the show because we want to honor their time that they took out of their day to come here and spend with me, which is our contribution to economic justice within our community. Within the 3 seasons, we have given out a total of $14,400 in honorariums. So season 4 will begin in October of 2025. So be sure to come back for more episodes. And in the meantime, if this is your very first time listening to Dem Bois Podcast, welcome. If you've been rocking with us episode after episode, thank you for supporting us. Be sure to like this episode, leave us a comment or a review. We would love to hear from you. You can also send us a text letting us know what you thought about an episode in real time. So once again, my name is Sean Aaron, he, him, his, and I have been your host. I hope to have you join me in season 4. Take care. Dem Bois,